region. But it's focusing on the Ashanti region.
Okay, all right. So we'll get into the details of that shortly. But yes, you'd understand all the numbers dynamics when it comes to the Ashanti region. So it's the second most populous region after Greater Accra. It's just a few hundreds below the numbers of the Greater Accra region. I think Greater Accra region is about 3.7 million. And then the Ashanti is about 3.4 thereabout. Okay. It's just a few hundreds that separates the two of them, but they are all in the 3 million region.
It's a big 100.
It's a big 100?
Big. So the Greater Accra region is 3.76,
like I said,
and then the Ashanti region is 3.29.
3.29. Okay, so that's
nearly
500,000. Yes. Okay, so it's not so few.
Yes, because that 500,000 is more.
It can
votes,
do a lot.
Listen, it's more votes than the Northeast region.
Oh wow.
Than the Savannah region, than the Hafo region, and the Uti region.
Okay, I see.
So the gap between Accra and the Ashanti region is bigger than 4 regions.
Yeah,
and that is why it's a very important number you have to keep in mind, because I explained Accra yesterday, and today I'll show you why Accra and Kumasi probably could determine the election.
And interestingly, yesterday at the final rally, I did hear the Member of Parliament for Adentan, Ramadan, whip up the supporters and say that this is the Greater Accra region. They are relying on the Greater Accra region to give them victory come tomorrow, because he says that over the years, anybody that wins the Greater Accra region wins the election. However, in 2020, despite the winning, they didn't win by a great margin, and that is how come they lost it. And so they are asking that they get at least 250,000 vote stretch, and they believe that can push them.
For him to say they didn't win, but if they had won even by 250,000 in Accra, they still would have lost.
They still would have lost. Okay.
Yeah, so but then the dynamics this year is different, and that's why I'll start from the Ashanti region. So I was talking about my barber's question, and I'm going to tell you the answer I gave him, and it was a very straightforward answer. Now, the voter population of Ashanti region, as we have both discussed here, is 3.29. The voter population of the voter region is 1.02. Immediately, I told him Ashanti region is
3.29.
Yes, and 1.02.
Yes.
Then he looked at me. I was like, okay. So it means that for even if entire voter region votes for the NDC, it just takes out a third of the Ashanti region's voter margin. And Ashanti region's 2/3 equally has to be fought for. So if you play the ostrich and say, okay, you're just going to focus on your stronghold, which is the voter region, and Ashanti region gives a very crazy, for lack of a better word, a very wide gap. You're already losing the elections even before starting, even if you get 100% votes in your stronghold, which is the voter region.
Okay.
So it should not be surprising that the NDC is spending so much time in the Ashanti region. So that's the first thing we need to know.
Okay.
Now we'll delve deeper.
So essentially, there's a I think I heard Muntaka say that yes, the voter region is their strongholds, but they get their highest votes from the Ashanti region.
So yes, after Accra, then there's the Ashanti region, then there's the Eastern region.
Before Volta?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. So it's interesting. Yep. No wonder. Yep. I get it now.
Yeah. So
I now understand how come in 2016 or under the Mahama administration there were efforts to get a lot more projects also going in the Ashanti region, because they were looking at the numbers as well.
Yep. And I'm going to now let's delve deeper into the numbers.
Yes.
So historically in the Ashanti region, what has happened is that it's gone the MPP's way since 1992. In fact, in 1992, where what's his name, Edubuahim, contested with Chairman Rawlings, then Edubuahim won the Ashanti region rather convincingly.
Okay.
Yeah, even though, in fact, the Ashanti region, I think one of the only 2 regions that President Rawlings didn't win that year. Yeah. However, if you remember, they boycotted the parliamentary elections
in
and
1992.
In 1992, hence the NDC won all the parliamentary seats in there. In fact, out of the 33 constituencies that were in the 1992, 33 constituencies in the Ashanti region then in 1992, Rawlings won 7.
Okay, out of the 32.
Out of the 33.
33, he won 7.
7. And Edubuahin won 26.
That's for the presidential.
That's for the presidential. But the parliamentary, because they stepped out aside.
They boycotted.
Yeah. So actually, in fact, the Ashanti was actually the only region Edubuahin won that year. So even at the point where Rawlings was the most popular candidate in the country, the NPP still won the Ashanti region.
Okay.
So once the popularity of the NDC started reducing, then the NPP started consolidating their gains in that region.
Okay.
Now, what you see is that in the 1992 election, Edubuahin polled 60.5% of the votes.
60.5.
And Rawlings did 32.9. You have to keep this number in mind. Rawlings did over 32%. Edubuahin did under 70%.
So
or even under 65%.
Is that 60.9?
60.5.
60.5.
So
okay.
just around 61. And Rawlings did 32.9. Now, since 1992, the NDC has never crossed that 30% mark again.
But that is even because the NPP did not. They had boycotted in one aspect, so you can see that there could have been a translation of that boycott to the presidential.
No, so before 1996, the presidential and parliamentary elections were held on different dates.
Yes.
So in 1992, the presidential elections were held on the 3rd of November, 1992. Then after the results, then the MPs or the MPP and other smaller parties boycotted the parliamentary elections that was to be held in December.
In December, okay.
In fact, due to their boycotts, the elections were actually postponed. So it was supposed to be initially held on the 7th of December, but ended up being held on the 18th of December.
Okay.
Because of the boycotts and plans to convince them so that there will not be a one-sided parliament. So that was what happened. However, when IPAC was set up following that elections and the subsequent coming into being of the Fourth Republic, IPAC then agreed that no, let's have both on the same days so that we just go through the process.
Yeah.
So after 1992 and since 1996, we have been doing it on
the same
day, December 7th. So as I said, Rawlings did in 1992 did 32.9.
And you said since that time they've not been able to cross that margin.
Yes. So okay. So I think in 1996, Rawlings still did a bit. Rawlings also did that mark of 32%.
Okay.
Sorry. So Rawlings also did 32% in 1996. Since 1996, that Chairman Rawlings was no longer a candidate, the NDC had never reached 30% before. In 2000, the NDC dropped to 22.5%, a full 10 percentage point drop. And the NPP went up to 74.8%.
That is the year 2000.
Year 2000, candidate
That
Kufuor.
was when candidate Kufuor won. Okay.
Yeah. Then in 2004, he went up to 77%, Kufuor.
Oh, okay.
Right. Then in 2008, the NPP fell to 72.5%. And remember, in 2008, the NPP lost the election. Then in 2012, the NPP fell further down to 70.9% and still lost the election. Then in 2016, the NPP went up to 26.3% and won the election.
26 or 76?
Sorry, 76.3%. Now, this will be the first time since 2004 that the NPP would go beyond the 75% mark.
So this is what, year 2016?
Yes, when candidate Kufuor
Another wind of change.
Exactly. So it was so wide. So in 2012, the NPP was at 70.9, and in 2016, they moved up by 6.3 percentage points to 76.3. And remember that the Ashanti region's population is the second highest. So a change of 6.3 by then will be around 2.5 million. Is a very, very significant figure in the race. Then in 2020, the NPP actually fell. Its performance declined to 72.8%.
72.8%. This time around, you are targeting about what? Is it 75?
So we had a target. It started from 85.
Okay.
Then it came down to 80, and now we are hearing a more realistic figure of 75.
75. Okay. So, but last year they did 72.
They did 72.
It means there's a drop from the 76 they had in 2016.
Yes. So the NPP actually underperformed in the Ashanti region in 2020.
And perhaps that's the reason they are spending so much time this time around in the region, especially when some analysts have talked about, voter apathy setting in the region.
Yeah. So that is the first part. Another reason why they are targeting the 75% is that historically, the 2 times that they have, or even 3 times that they have hit that mark, they've won the election. Not even with a runoff. Hands down.
They've won it.
Yeah. So in 2004, 77%. In 2016, 76.3%. And so that is why they are targeting 75%. So once they hit the 75%, they are good to go. Now let's go to the NDC side. The 2 times post Rollins that the NDC won, that's won the election. They did 26% in 2008 and 28.4% in 2012.
Okay, so 2008 is what brought Mills into office,
yeah.
And 2012 is what brought John Dramani Mahama to office.
Yes, to his first term.
Okay.
So 28.4%.
And I imagine they dropped in 2016 significantly.
So remember I told you the MPP gained 6.3 percentage points between 2012 and 2016. The MPP fell by 5.4 percentage points.
MPP or NDC?
Sorry, the NDC.
So they fell from the
28.4 to 23.
Okay, that was in 2016.
That was in 2016.
That's when they lost. And in 2020, did they appreciate?
The NDC appreciated, did a 26.5%, and for the first time ever, they crossed the 25 percentage mark, but failed to win the election. So remember, Accra was in 2016. 2020 was the first time in Accra somebody won the contest in Accra, but failed to win.
Yes.
Additionally, for the NDC, in 2020, they crossed the 25% mark for the first time and also failed to.
It still failed.
Remind
me of what they had in 2020. 2016.
23%.
23%.
Yeah.
And they appreciated to 26%.
Yeah.
Okay. I now understand why some analysts said that in last 4 years election, even though the NDC did not win, they gained.
Yes, they did. And that's also translated into the halving of the margin from 1 million.
They said 1 million
to 500,000. So all these things contributed to making it possible. So that is the first picture you need to look at when it comes to the Ashanti region.
Okay.
Now I want to give you numbers. We are dealing with a lot of percentages.
You want to give me numbers?
Yeah, I want to give you numbers. So in 2012, John Mahama did 624,000 votes in the Ashanti region. In 2016, he fell to 503,000. So in 2012, he did 624,000. In 2016, he fell to 503,000. So John Dramani Mahama lost close to 120,000 votes between 2012 and 2016 in the Ashanti region.
Close to 100,000.
120,000.
120,000.
Yeah.
Okay. This is 2012 and 2016.
Yes.
But then in 2020, there was an appreciation.
He appreciated by 150,000.
By 150,000 more.
Yes. So he went back to 600. He did 624 in 2012.
And went to 500 and something.
And then came back to 650.
Okay. So he regained what he lost.
He regained what he lost.
Okay.
Right. So, as I said yesterday, with regards to say the central region, what this could tell you is that this is probably Mahama's base figure entering into the election.
The 650.
The 650.
Because he lost and
regained. So, right before the elections are going, you can be guaranteed that John Dramani Mahama is likely to do probably around a 600,000 plus in the Ashanti region. That is what you need to know. Now, candidate Akufo-Addo in 2012 did 1.5 million. In 2016, he went up to 1.6 million. And then in 2020, he appreciated again to 1.79 million. So
in the Ashanti region.
In the Ashanti region. Now, you remember that the general population is equally increasing as you go on.
Yes.
And what then is looking like is that while John Mahama's voter fluctuates, candidate Akufo-Addo or even the NPP, what they've done is to consistently appreciate. And so that is why the Ashanti region is very critical in here. Now, let's start doing some maths.
Okay.
The Ashanti region has 3.2 voters on the ballot paper.
3.2 million.
3.2 million. Historically, the Ashanti region is not the region that gives you the highest voter turnout. Ashanti region is most likely to do it at 80%.
Compared to Greater Accra?
Yes. And 80% of 3.2 is, let me do a quick math. So that will be around 2.6 thereabouts. Okay. Let me be sure so we don't. So 0.8 times 3.2 would give us. Yes, so 2.5 here.
Okay.
So 2.5 as I rightly said. So what this means is that there are about 2.5 million votes up for grabs at the end of the day in the Ashanti region. Now, if John Mahama does his 650,000, for example, right? What this would then also mean is that there are 1.9 million votes left for the up for grabs. As to whether those votes will go to rejected ballots, would go to Alan Tremantin, would go to Nana Kwame Bediakun, or whoever will determine how the MPP's fate or what the MPP's fate will be. Because remember, in 2020, the MPP did 1.79. 1.79.
Yes.
In the
1.79 million people.
Yeah, 1.79 million people. So if we make an assumption that the MPP still does the same 1.79 here, so you take out 1.79, they are just about. This is a very interesting one. There are just about 120,000 people left.
Wow.
Yes. So Alan is taking his part. Nana Kwame Bediako is also taking his part.
Yes.
So what this means is that if there's an 80% voter turnout in the Ashanti region, the MPP may not get that appreciation in votes that they are envisaging. You get it? Yeah. So
because of at least the Alan factor.
Yes, there's a 120. Let's even assume Alan wasn't in the race.
Yeah.
If we still do, and that's why they are really pushing for a high voter turnout. Because if it does the standard 80%, I can tell you that Mahama will surely get his 650,000 based on the way he's gone up and down, and what people will call the wind that is blowing where people because of the economic hardship. So he will get his 650,000 for sure. When you take that out, we are left with 1.9 million. Out of the 1.9 million, even if the NPP retain all its votes from last year, or even the NPP gets all the 1.9 million, its votes will just go up by 100,000 in the Ashanti region. And as I've said, rejected ballot will take its share.
Yes.
Alan Cash will take his share.
And Kweku Bediako.
Kweku Bediako will take his share.
Kofi Akpaloo also take his share.
Yes, and then the smaller parties. So the NPP probably might not cross 1.8 million this year in the Ashanti region. And once they don't cross that, it means that every loss they make in another region closes the gap. So if Accra says they want to give a gap of 250,000, that erases nearly half of the 2020 gap the MPP had in the general election.
Yes.
If the Western region, which people are saying will become closer, and there's a net gain of 80,000 there, it also closes the gap further. Then the Central region, depending on where they decide to go, would also close the gap further. So that is how dynamic the Ashanti region is. And why it's important, because any failure of the NPP to make a gain in the Ashanti region means a loss in another region.
Now, very interesting dynamics. So I now appreciate further why there's so much attention paid to the region.
Now, yeah.
Yes, you wanted to.
So let's do something.
Okay.
The NDC says it's targeting 30% in the Ashanti region. If we do a 30% of the votes in the Ashanti region. Since I've told you that the Ashanti region is going to give us about 2.5, 2.6 million valid votes. The NDC is targeting to jump from Mohammed's baseline of 650,000 to 750,000. Now, if you take out that 750,000 from the 2.6 million, 2.5, 2.6 million votes available, what this therefore means is that they're just about 180,000 votes up for grabs. 1.8 million votes up for grabs, which is just very close to what the NPP has got. And as we said, Bediako will take his part, Alan will take his share, no matter how small it is, even if it's 20,000, even if it's 10,000, it eats more into the NPP's the NPP's total vote.
So it means 700,000.
Yes. So what could be is that any form of voter turnout projection that was made using sampling, using the sampling would actually even reduce a bit further.
Okay.
Because they are sampling those alive to do their polls.
Yeah.
But already there's some 600,000 people that are not on the alive but still on the poll. So whatever.
But there's some form of cleaning that happens. Usually when it is exhibited, people who have lost relatives are advised to go to the register, to those centers and indicate to the people that and show evidence that these persons are no more, so that for those names to be crossed out. Is that not enough?
There's a system. How many times have you heard? Usually if there's a cleaning, there should be an announcement that say 100,000 names have been expunged from
the register.
You hardly hear of that.
Yes,
because people. It is usually when we have a new registration that there's an automatic cleaning because dead people will not come.
Will not be able to come and register.
Yes, but I can tell you on record that this is just a compound of new registrants on the 70 million old one. In none of the addresses have we heard that we have taken out this amount of people. So it is not something that is part of the Ghanaian culture.
Yes. That's true.
So in effect, the actual people who can vote, if everyone decides
should be around
to vote,
just 18 million.
Around 18 million.
And so if they have projected like an 80% voter turnout in all, using the 18.7,
which is the sample,
that will be overstating.
That might be overstated by about 2%.
Okay, all right. I'll let you go today because Wipo is on your neck. So
I wanted to do one thing before I go.
What
Ashanti, the parliamentary, I heard him talking about some constituencies.
Yes.
I think the Ashanti region is actually a very interesting one because anytime the NDC gets about 5 or more seats, they end up also winning the region. Also winning the general election. Yeah. Currently, they have 4.
4.
Yeah. In 2016, they had 3. They are saying that this year they are targeting 6 or 7. I've said it countless times, but one seat everybody should keep an eye on in the Ashanti region is the Offenso North seats.
Who occupies it and why should we keep an eye on it?
So it's occupied by one Collins in team.
Okay.
And then Collins was kicked out. And then the head of TVET, Fred Che, has been put there.
Okay.
But it's a seat that the NDC was holding in 2012 before the NPP took over.
In 2016. Okay. So in 2016, how many seats did the NDC have in the Ashanti region?
What, currently?
In 2016.
In 2016, they had 5. No, in 2016, they had 3.
They are 3.
Yes.
Then in 2020,
they added 1.
They've added 1. They want to add 1 more.
They want to add. In fact, they want to add 2. The second one, but that might be a bit more difficult. Okay. Is the Etrima Impunia seats.
Okay, Etrima
Impunia seats.
Okay.
Yes, but that will be more difficult. But the offensive seats is a seat you should keep an eye on.
We should keep an eye on.
Because if any seat will flip
in the Ashanti
region to the NDC,
that will be it.
That will be it due to historical and then recent trends. But the Etrima Impunia seat, also one that will be a close call.
A close call. All right, we'll keep a close eye on it, and we'll start from this evening, and then tomorrow morning, everything blends in smoothly. Thank you so much, Edem Kujo. He makes the numbers game very exciting, and sometimes you think that you should perhaps continue, but this guy, if you leave him, wahala, he go leave you with. Let me see your book. Dash it to me. I know that's for the research desk.
It was given.
The book is for the research desk. Anyway, yes, it's a book I've actually been looking for.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Adam, it's been great having you. I'll go for a break. When I return, we'll talk more in relation to the elections. We'll probably have a quick listen to what the leading contender did say yesterday, and then also do hear from you. It's a morning Star here on Star 103.5 FM.